I've had the distinct privilege to meet many really cool people within this industry, and one of them came very early on back in 2017. I had barely started my YouTube career, if you will, and this person reached out to me via Twitter, and he was the director of marketing at Draft2Digital. Name was Kevin Tumlinson. You might recognize the name if you followed me long enough, because Kevin's been a multiple time guest here on this channel. And I've just considered him among my favorite people to interview, one of my favorite people to chat with, and also a really good friend. And more recently, he left Draft2Digital. It was pretty shocking. I really was not expecting Kevin to leave this company. I felt like he was just the face of the brand. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about that in today's interview, about what he did with Draft2Digital, what brought him there, and of course, what led him to leaving the company and now more recently joining another company as their CEO. Ooh, I might have spoiled that a little too soon. You'll find out more details about this and some of his journey when it comes to being an author and then getting into these various aspects of the business. So without any further ado, let's get on into the interview with Kevin Tumlinson. You are a long-tenured guest here in the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast, Kevin. So I am absolutely thrilled to have you again, because you're going into a new chapter, a new phase of your life. What happened that you're leaving Draft2Digital?
First of all, I appreciate being referred to as long-tenured rather than some of the alternatives. So thank you for that. Here's the funny part is, like, nothing actually happened with me and Draft2Digital. There's no like negativity. There's no one's disgruntled. No one's angry.
Tea to spill.
No tea to spill. Yeah. Really what has happened is after 7 years with this amazing company, I can't say enough, high praise for Draft2Digital. After 7 years of serving the author community through D2D, there were just a couple of things that were opportunities for me that led me outside of that business. I'd kind of grown as much as I could grow in that role. It was obvious that I wasn't going to be moving upward anytime soon, and that's no fault of theirs, and nothing to really be upset about. It was just I was where I needed to be. I was where they needed me most, and I'm an ambitious person. I'm an entrepreneurial minded person, and so there's things I've been building over the years on the side. So it was just, I felt like it was a good time to make an exit and start something new. And little did I know that some of the new would come upon me unexpected. Out in the wild.
Yeah, I definitely want to dive into that here eventually. This is a little bit of a hook for our podcast listeners and viewers, because there is life after Draft2Digital. And it was so funny. I think I even predicted it because I texted you. I was just like, so have you gotten any offers? And you're like, funny you say that.
I've gotten many offers. It's really been interesting. It's sort of like, you don't know how much you're loved until you tell the world that you're on your way out of a well-loved and well-respected business. And suddenly I'm like fielding offers all over the place. That's a nice feeling. I will admit that.
You've spent, the past 7 years in, feel free to disagree with me on this one here, but you've been essentially the face of the brand for Draft2Digital, in my opinion, because anytime you saw the podcast, it was you. Anytime you saw a tutorial, it was you. Anytime you saw any type of press releases or any new features being rolled out from Draft2Digital, it was you. So my question is how did they react to you departing the company? Was it shock? Was it surprise? Did they see it coming?
Yeah. First, let me say that whole face of the company thing was very much by design. That was intentional from the start.
Gotcha.
That language, that specific language, was part of the communication when I first started there.
Yeah.
And me. I'm all over the place. I'm like a bad penny. I always turn up. But the reaction from Chris in particular, it was surprise and I think a little bit of disappointment, we go back now most of a decade, and he was a listener to my Wordslinger podcast before I started, and he told me that that was one of the things he kind of always hoped we'd get a chance to work together, and we turned out we did, and we worked very well together. So, yeah, there's a little bit. I mean, on both sides of this, there's that tiny little. I can only call it regret, but I don't really think it's regret. It's a little bit of. It's a little bit like, when your kid grows up and goes and leaves for college, or gets out on their own for the first time. I mean, I think there's a little bit of that going on from both directions. Like, I see Draft2Digital as the kid in this scenario, and they see me as the kid in this scenario. And, I think we've both grown up together, helped raise each other in a sense. So there's that little bit of sadness, and there's been some sadness from the community as well. The writing community has expressed like they're hoping I show up again, which, I will. That whole bad penny thing, I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I'm embedding myself even deeper into the writing community.
I know, selfishly, at least on my part, I was kind of sad to see you have to leave Draft2Digital, but I knew that I still have that strong emotional connection with Draft2Digital, even without you.
Yeah.
And also, I think from a standpoint of just your peer and a friend and a connection, that I'm super excited and super proud to see you step out and, venture into new waters. And this is really exciting.
Yeah.
Part of your role of being the director of marketing over at Draft2Digital had so many facets to it. Can you be able to list how many things that you used to have to do for Draft2Digital?
How could I even start? I mean, so there was representing them at conferences and on podcasts, hosting our own live stream and podcast.
It's incredible too, by the way. One of my favorites.
Oh, and I love that show. That's one of the things I probably will miss most is being part of Self-Publishing Insiders. There was a component of my work that was sort of unofficial, off the books, but I helped make a lot of the connections that Draft2Digital had with others. Now, I'm not the only one. Dan Wood is all over the place. He's connected that company to entities that I barely knew. Same with Mark Lefebvre. But I was sort of one of the team that would reach out and connect us with, because I have my own contacts from way back and from over the years, and so. But there was a lot of sort of problem solving sort of things that would happen. The way I structured the department, and I told them this all along, which was I saw marketing as being support for support. Draft2Digital support team is amazing.
It is.
Tara is, Tara and Crystal run that, and they are incredible. They're just incredible. I love them all. And I decided a long time ago that one of my roles was to make sure that I did everything possible to help and take care of them. And the same with any other department. If someone from, if Toby, who is our CTO, if he needed some copy for something on the website, or they wanted to run an idea past me or whatever, I always made sure I was there and attentive, and made sure that I gave them my best to kind of help out. Even though on the technical side, I had nothing at all to do with the technical side of the business. But it just shows you how marketing is this interesting tool that can weave itself throughout every aspect of a business. And it's one of those things where you should involve the marketing team in every decision, really, because we're tapped into the business that you're trying to serve. We're tapped into that in our case, marketing is very much tapped into the writing community. And we have a lot of writers on staff. We have a lot of, or Draft2Digital. I got to stop. I got to break the habit of saying we, but maybe I'll always be a we with Draft2Digital. But, we got a lot of writers on staff, but all of us contribute to this whole. My role was, all those things and more. It was a very flexible role, honestly.
You did an awful lot. And you briefly kind of touched on the fact that Chris Austin, the CEO of Draft2Digital, was a longtime follower of your Wordslinger podcast. Big shout out, folks. Go check out his podcast. He's not currently doing it, but I tried talking him into just before here. So, how did that?
I keep thinking about bringing it back.
Got to bring it back, man. You got such a great voice. For podcasts, to me, I just always feel like it's like a soothing conversation. I don't have the same like, I don't know what it is, like that baritone that you have in your voice. It's like a deeper bass. But, how did that conversation come about? Like, did Chris reach out to you, said, "Hey, I'm a big fan of your podcast. Do you want to do a bunch of work for us?" What was that like for you?
No, actually, it was Dan Wood. I had him on my show,
Oh,
and I was wanting to know more about Draft2Digital. And he and I also bumped into each other at conferences here and there, and had some, had drinks, which is what you do when you run into Dan Wood in the wild. You have drinks, and we talked about. At a point I had said, look, I had a small copywriting mostly, but a small marketing agency of my own, single man operation at that point. I had a couple of contractors, but I said, look, if you guys ever need help marketing anything, launching something or whatever, let me know. I'm happy to help. And at that time, they were going to roll out the universal book links from Books to Read.
I love that service.
And they brought me on to help with that. And that, it was going to become they were going to become one of my clients. But in a conversation with Aaron Pogue, one of the founders, he was president of the company at that time, and it became an offer within the first month. I mean, it was pretty clear we worked well together.
Yeah.
And so they brought me on board as their director of marketing barely a month after doing that work. And I've never had to work for Draft2Digital, so that's what made that such a great relationship, because it's one thing when you work for someone because you got to have something to pay the bills. It's another thing when you're working there because you're passionate about what they do and who they serve. And I have always been very passionate about serving the writer community. I do a lot. I actually do a lot that makes me no money at all to serve the author community, because I am one of us. I am one of that community. But so are these service providers and these podcasts and YouTube channels like yours. People don't often think of it this way, but this community is diverse and strong. And, anything that I can do to contribute to the service and success of these authors, I'm definitely going to do.
Why does that mean so much to you? Because I'm sure you could probably be selfish. You have such a deep backlog of books, not to mention some books that you've even co-authored with some fantastic other authors. Big shout out to Nick Thacker. So why do you have such a strong affinity for helping other indie authors when you could probably just be taking care of yourself?
I remember being what I refer to as a will-be author.
I love that phrase. I read it in your 30-day author plan.
And I've recycled it a million times. But I was one of you, if you're listening, watching, who dream so passionately about being an author, but are so confused about what to do, need so much guidance and help. I tried to absorb as much as I could. I listened to podcasts, watched YouTube videos, went to conferences, and there was a point at which the switch flipped. And I had a traditional contract for a brief time, but on the self-publishing side, like, I knew nothing about self-publishing. I was ashamed of it when I first started doing it. But it's changed so much,
Oh, yeah.
so much. It's changed so much since that book, you're referring to. Everything has changed. Self-publishing now is publishing, but there's still that sort of gap in there. We all need, in pursuing a dream, everyone needs some kind of guide, some sort of Sherpa mentor. We can't always afford to pay one. We can't always afford to join mastermind groups, and sometimes we don't know where to turn. And what I want, the dream that's always been in my heart, is to be a part of a community, a vital part of a community. So it's selfish for me, honestly, to help all these authors find and accomplish their dream. It's a little bit selfish because I get such there's so much positivity and love and goodwill that comes back to me for this. I can honestly and genuinely point to this community and its generosity for all my success. And how could I not give back to that? You're compelled as a decent human being, you're compelled to give back to whatever community served you. I'll live the rest of my life serving this community.
It's incredible to hear. And I think a lot of people become so jaded and cynical when they see all these Lamborghini flexing, paycheck boasting individuals in our space, that they fail to realize that they're not a representation of everybody in the community, that there really truly are some people that are genuinely invested. And
I will say I could be driving. Well, I love my vehicle. I drive a nice brand new Ford Bronco, not subtle. It's that orange Bronco with and I have a novelty plate that says Novelton with a K, or nice. Novelty with a K. But anyway, that's an aside. And I have a nice house. I have a lot of the accoutrement of success. The things that people point to show that they're successful. Yeah. But I will say, I mean, I could be much further along, much bigger house, much nicer car. If I were willing to take advantage of this group I serve, but I'm not willing to do that. And the truth is, there's no need to. I feel much more fulfilled by where I am than where I think I could be.
Yeah, you've been quite the connector here with me. I've met so many people through you, including a couple of my favorites, Johnny Andrews and Brian Meeks. Those two are just a couple of my best buds to this day. And I'm sure there's been many times where I've met somebody, for instance, Honoré Quarter, just interviewed her here on the podcast. And she, of course, has worked with you and co-authored in the 30-day author plan where she did the forward for that. It's so amazing. You have so many connections. I kind of refer to you lovingly as the Kevin Bacon of self-publishing, because you really have all of these different degrees of separation. And I'm very thankful for that. What do you think is so important about networking for authors? And how can they start into something like that if they're, an introverted type person who likes to just hide behind a keyboard and write their next book?
Yeah, and I'm like that too. I'm people don't believe me, but I'm what's called, I refer to myself as a high functioning introvert.
That's a good way to put it.
But I think, the reality of our work is it is pretty isolating, but we all have gaps in our knowledge and gaps in our skill set. And, I think all of us kind of realize at a basic level that there's things we need, like cover designers and editors and that sort of thing. That's a standard. I think it's less obvious that we also need to be connecting to other influencers, movers, and shakers in whatever business we're in, if our goal is to ease our upward mobility. In other words, when you start writing, so it used to be that in order to be successful as a writer, you had to go through what we now refer to as the gatekeepers. You had to get an agent, had to get them to, or an editor, depending on the era you were in. But these days, it's more like agent, editor, onward to the publisher and beyond, right?
Yeah.
That's changed. A lot of that has changed. What we have now is we have a lot of people who have self-publishing success, and a lot of it is due to force of will. All right, like you've got people, and I was one of these. I got to release a book every 15 days. At one point that's what I was doing, or every month. But that puts you on this treadmill of constant work and constant, forcing yourself forward. It's just sheer willpower, and lots of writers have been very successful with this and built empires. Look at the whole 20 books thing. Michael Anderle and LMBPN and all of that. Mark Dawson as well, although Mark Dawson's force of will went into first Facebook ads and then basically all things marketing. So, there is that component to success. I realize that I am much more inclined I can succeed forward through the connections I make. Authors need to realize that is another path, so that you don't have to spend all your energy writing the next book or crafting the perfect ad campaign or testing or those things. those things are all great, and they are all, you should look into those things as part of your business and see what fits for you. But there's another way, which is connect to as many people as possible, not so that you can ask them for things all the time, and not so that, you can try to trick them into, making you successful. Other people won't make you successful just for the heck of it.
I've been trying to trick you into making me successful for years.
And
now,
I do my best, but look at what the relationship you and I have. You brought it up, like, through me, you connect to other people in this industry. And I'm happy to do that. That costs me nothing. But what ends up happening is, I think it's Jim Rohn who said this. I can't remember if it was Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar, but you can have anything you want in life if you're willing to help enough other people get what they want. I believe that's Jim Rohn. But that quote is a guiding principle of my life. Help as many people as I can, connect, get what they want, get that dream, get their dream to come true. Whatever I can do to facilitate connecting everybody is something I feel strongly should be done. Authors should think about their careers in that way. Don't just look to connect to somebody for what it can do for you, but look to see how that could help the other people that you connect with. How can you make connections that make sense? Hey, I was talking to this author and he needs a cover designer, and hey, I was talking to this cover designer and he's looking for clients. That's the basic level. But even above that, because I go to all the conferences and to do all the podcasts, and I'm connected to a lot of movers and shakers in this business. And rather than always selfishly trying to use that to advance my career, I look to see how I can use it to advance relationships in the industry, because that helps the author community even more. If company A and company B could have some sort of synergy and I can bring them together and connect them, and I've done this a lot, suddenly you get this almost virtual company C that serves the author community even better. And sometimes that leads to things like acquisitions and partnerships, and so it's good for you. Networking is a powerful tool that everyone talks about and then they roll their eyes. But the truth is, you really should be looking at, how can I connect as many people as possible, because it will benefit you indirectly to the infinite degree.
It's amazing because it does help you build a lot of trust within your inner circle, with your peers, with your business professionals network. It is absolutely stellar. So I think this leads into something very interesting, and that's your next phase of your life.
Yeah.
I can't finish the podcast without first addressing that. So I imagine this new foray, this new venture for you probably came through a connection of yours. So fill me in.
Yeah.
What is life after Draft2Digital? What happened as soon as you handed in your walking papers and were out the door from Draft2Digital?
I mean, the first thing I should say is that when I had planned an exit date for myself from D2D, and I stuck to it. And in the interim, and what was happening was I was getting a lot of invitations from people within the industry to do some consulting work. And, I have a lot of insight and I'm a connector. And so, for those companies listening out there, I mean, I'm happy to talk to you, but I have sort of a little consulting business that I'm running on the side. But it was actually, I was at a conference in Oklahoma City, WriterCon. Shout out to Bill Bernhardt and the WriterCon conference. And I'm at a table next to Cameron Sutter from Plotter. And I mentioned, we kind of got, buddy, and I started talking to him about some of what I had in mind and my plan to exit. I was very vague about everything, but I'm like, I have a plan. I didn't say I have a specific day. But he is partners with Ryan Z at Book Sweeps. Ryan is a co-founder of Plotter. And I guess that conversation sparked an idea, and he went back and talked to Ryan. And so around the time that I was buckling it all down, I got all my systems automated at Draft2Digital, handed everything off. I don't think anybody even realized that I had, excised myself from the company for the most part. But when I was ready to give my notice, I got an offer from Ryan to become the CEO of Book Sweeps. and I accepted
Wow.
that offer. And so, I have all
Congrats.
this other stuff that I've got going, and contractually, I'm still able to do all of that. But this opportunity with Book Sweeps, and if you're unfamiliar with it, Book Sweeps is effectively, it's about building your author platform. So we do these giveaways. You can subscribe and you pay to be included in these giveaways and promotions. We give product away to a reader, not just your book, but they have a chance to win some cool thing like an iPad or a Kindle or something.
Oh, cool.
And eventually we want to scale this up. Like, Toyota has sponsored us, and the next winner will get a Tacoma or something. We'll see.
That would be awesome.
We're gonna work on that. I'm gonna use word slinger power to try to convince these companies to start sponsoring. But it's about growing your following, growing your platform, and it's more than just email. Although email to me is still the number one tool for author marketing and promotion, just hands down. But we also help build your Amazon following, help build your BookBub following, Goodreads. It's all about the platform. A short way to consider what platform means for authors is it's the sphere of influence you have. It's the reach you have with potential readers who will buy your work. So the more people you have on your reading list, or your email list rather, and the more people you have following you on BookBub, and the more people you have following you on Amazon, the easier it is for you to promote that next book or promote existing work. It's your own built-in ecosystem. And so that's what we're aiming to help authors with. I see Book Sweeps in a whole new way now. I see it as the thread. So I'm envisioning a sort of author. Well, I'm calling it. I think I'll come up with a name later. I don't want to reveal the name of what I'm thinking because there's something I'm building around it. Sorry about that. No, but I'm thinking of the whole industry as being a sort of string of pearls, where from beginning to end in this like workflow for writers, there's plotter is like at the beginning. You're going to plot your book, and then there's the writing pearl, and then there's the editing pearl, and then there's the cover design, and then marketing and promotion is throughout all of this, right up through launch and beyond. So that's what I see Book Sweeps as being.
Great analogy, by the way. That's awesome.
And that's what I'm building. And Ryan's built this, and I don't think he wasn't quite thinking of it in these terms, but we're crucial. We're a crucial component. You should begin we tell people this, but we don't tell them how to do this. But you should be beginning your marketing and promotion as soon as you decide you're going to be a writer, honestly. As soon as you decide, I want to write books for a living, you should begin, and you should begin building the platform. And we're going to create things that teach all authors when and how to do this. And Book Sweeps is, that little company that most people haven't heard of yet. Get ready, because I see us as the absolute backbone we can become the absolute backbone of the indie publishing world, the publishing world, because we reach beyond just indie publishing. Like, we've done work with Simon & Schuster and some other big name publishers. So, we're that little big powerful company you've never heard of. And that's about to change because, hello, Kevin's on board now.
Yeah, it's no doubt. I mean, there's proofs in the pudding. I mean, between you growing your own author platform, you co-creating author.email along with Nick Thacker, you managing to really grow Draft2Digital from just this small aggregate publishing company to probably, arguably, one of the best Amazon KDP alternatives, which is really tough in a very crowded space.
Yeah.
And so I have no doubt Book Sweeps is going to be something that's going to be up and coming. And hopefully I'll be able to share more information about it in the coming months.
You will.
Because I'll be talking with you, I'm sure.
But I do want to point something out, because based on what you said, I want to extrapolate a little, because I want people to realize, recognize, and know all those things you listed that I have been a part of and have done, and didn't do any of those by myself at all. None of them.
Yeah.
I had business partners on some things, and I had, collaboration on some things. Draft2Digital is an immense team of incredible people, and we all contributed to the growth of that company. I did, but so did Dan Wood and Mark Lefebvre and now Nick Thacker and Jim Azevedo, and there's a whole, and Alexis Gray.
Love me some Jim. Big shout out to my
I
boy.
love every one of these people, and they're just going to continue to grow even without me there. I'm happy. Yeah. I'm proud of being a part of it. I want the whole world to know I didn't leave Draft2Digital over any sort of bad blood or animosity or anything remotely like that. I actually see this is me still serving the author community and helping Draft2Digital do the same at a different level. I see me leaving Draft2Digital in this way at this point as being good for D2D and therefore good for the writing community. I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want anybody ever to accuse me of saying I am the sole reason that Draft2Digital is on the map. Everything I've ever done well in my life, I did with the help of incredible people, and I intend to continue that tradition at Book Sweeps.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingwithdale.com for more information on how you can level up your self-publishing business. Also, check out our growing video-on-demand service, chock full of free and premium content, when you head over to theselfpublishinghub.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your preferred podcasting platform. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.